All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video comes from It's Complicated and it's titled Equal Pay, Rules of Modern Dating and Understanding Women. It's Complicated. Now, It's Complicated is primarily a dating channel. That's what most of the content revolves around: men, women, dating, things of that nature. But you know, sometimes they got topics that go kind of outside of that, like equal pay. So before I start the video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe while you're rocking with me. Now let's get into it.
Who is the most famous actress you can think of?
Actress? Drew Barrymore.
Okay, if Drew Barrymore was in a movie with a male co-star that nobody had heard of, would it be fair to pay them the same salary?
No.
Why not?
Because he's not, known of, and because he didn't, work to be famous like she did.
Okay, since Drew is the star of the movie, won't she bring more people to the theater than her co-star?
Yes.
Okay, that's called star power. How is that different than the gender pay gap?
Oh, that's a loaded one.
She wasn't ready for that one, you guys. She wasn't ready for that.
Than the gender pay gap.
Oh, that's a loaded one. For women or for
Well, I mean, the WNBA complains about not being paid the same to the NBA, and they don't generate as much revenue. So, I mean, isn't that kind of like the same thing?
I feel like the WNBA isn't promoted as much as the NBA because they are women.
Right, but I mean, wouldn't a male co-star that no one's ever heard of not be promoted as much and not be able to?
Yeah, I guess.
So is that comparable?
Maybe, sure.
She knows it is. She just doesn't want to admit it. She knows it's comparable.
So is that comparable?
Maybe, sure.
I mean, wouldn't it have more to do with performance than discrimination?
Oh, I don't know. You're hitting me. I wasn't ready. I don't know.
You're right about that one, but I just feel like
if they both doing the same job,
thing,
they deserve the
they
same
should.
pay. It doesn't matter.
Okay, but at the same time, you know, then why would someone want to star in their movie?
I mean,
what would be the benefit of having a celebrity in your movie if they weren't gonna, bring more people to the theater?
I mean,
right. That makes sense, but
I mean, they're both doing the same job, but don't they have different value to the project?
Yeah, but I feel
you're right.
So,
Exactly. And I guess the example he's using is star power, like with acting, right? But I guess the way it translates in the work world, I guess with men and women and the gender pay gap is that, in general, when it comes to a lot of the high paying jobs, men do them better. So they're the star power, quote unquote, to match his example.
So shouldn't their pay, reflect the value that they're bringing to the movie?
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like it depends on what part you play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't that completely disprove the gender pay gap right there?
damn.
Yeah.
All right.
You have two actors.
That's why I love It's Complicated. The way he asks his questions, it always comes back around full circle to make sense. So if you listen in and you're not just, if you listen in and answering the questions interactively and not just trying to be argumentative, you'll learn something. But
All right.
You have two actors who are basically both starring and doing the same job.
okay, all three of them look like feminists. Comment down below. Are these girls feminists before we even find out? I can tell.
But they have different value because one is a celebrity and the other one's an unknown.
And you're saying with the basketball?
Well, what I'm saying is when it comes to basketball, right? Yeah. A lot of women say that the WNBA should be paid the same as the NBA, but
Yeah,
they don't. But they don't generate the same revenue. So isn't that kind of like the same analogy as the celebrity getting paid more than the no-name actor?
In some respect, but at the end of the day, I would say to advertise them more. In all respect, if we look at Nike, if we look at Adidas, who do we see? We mostly see male, athletes. I'm trying to make a pose. Models.
But just because you advertise something, that doesn't mean that people are going to buy it. You know, you could advertise, you could put out the best ad ever, and then they buy your product. If they don't like your product, if the product doesn't live up to the advertisement, then no one's going to buy your product. You could keep advertising it all you want, but if the product just doesn't live up to that standard, then no one's going to buy your product. Advertisement isn't the end all be all. The product has to be great. The NBA is a greater it's a greater organization just all around. The product is greater. It's a better product than the WNBA. So that's why more money goes into it, more eyeballs are on it, it's more talked about. It is what it is. And she knows, like, all these girls, when he's asking these questions, they know that what he's saying makes sense, but it just goes against what they've been, you know what I'm saying, taught to think.
But even if you advertise something more, does that necessarily mean that you're going to have more success? I mean, there are tons of businesses that fail.
But there's a ton that make it, and it's by advertising.
Acting, it requires you to act, put a little bit more work into it. Actually read a script, right? Read a script, do all these things that NBA players don't have to really do. They just practice, and so you can't compare them. You can't compare the two.
Well, once again,
did she just say acting is harder than being an NBA player? What?
They just practice, and so you can't compare them. You can't compare the two.
well, once again,
as far as the pay rate is concerned.
Well, once again, like I said, they're both, they're both training. They're both basically, they're both doing, acting, whether you're a male or a female actor, you're still basically, doing the same work, but they shouldn't be paid the same?
I don't know.
I'm just saying,
I'm over it. Next question.
I don't think it's based off of discrimination. I think it's based off of how long you've been at your job, how well you are with your technique, and how good you are at what you do. I think that.
Okay, W. This girl's a W.
That's what matters.
Do you think high-paid Hollywood actors should have their money redistributed so struggling actors can have a living wage?
No, those struggling actors need to work harder for their money if that's what they want.
Okay, but it's funny how a lot of Hollywood actors often talk about, socialism.
Yeah, I see.
So, okay, how do you solve the gender pay gap?
There's not a gender pay gap. That's complete bullshit.
There has been some skepticism about the gender pay gap, equal pay for equal work. Do you believe the wage gap is due more to sexism or
Feminist. I'm calling it feminist.
productivity?
I think it's sexism.
Yes.
Okay.
I think men get paid more.
Yep.
It's got to be productivity.
It's a look. I'm telling you, they have a look.
Can you show me a job where the pay scale for men and women is different?
Porn?
Okay.
I don't know.
Actors and actresses.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm?
Actors and actresses. They'll be in the same movie.
Yep.
Doing the same amount of work.
Yeah.
If the wage gap exists, then why would companies employ men when it would be cheaper to hire women?
Because companies can be sexist, and that's like the point. That's the problem.
Why would companies employ men when it would be cheaper to hire women?
That is a good one. Hold on. They probably wouldn't.
If women are capable of doing just as good a job and for less money, wouldn't it make sense for a company to hire all women?
Yeah, if women were getting paid less, 70 cents on the dollar, yeah, companies would, find a good deal in that, yeah.
Exactly. It's just common sense. Feminists will often say it's facts. It's factual that women get paid less, and that's just not true, because if that was the case, if that was a fact, if that was actually true, and yes, some of them will actually die on the molehill believing that. If that was actually true, then companies would just hire women only, because they would be saving so much more money by hiring women, but obviously that's not true.
Is there a wage gap or an earnings gap?
It's got to be an earnings gap.
If men earn more than women overall, could it possibly be because men typically choose higher paying jobs, more dangerous jobs, and work longer hours?
Yep, these are all facts. I work as a truck driver. I don't see clearly as many female truck drivers as I do male. It's a dangerous job. It's a long job. You're driving for hours. Yeah.
I've had manual labor jobs, construction. I've built a house. I've done gutter installation, siding, roofing, all of that. You name it. You don't see women out there. You just don't. You just don't.
No.
Don't women generally choose lower paying fields like education and nursing as opposed to math, science, and ditch digging jobs?
More thinking more.
So
you see, and I think it's kind of funny, and this just shows you that it's a level of brainwashing that has been done, because the first question they asked him, they strongly opposed it, right? They took the feminist view. But then this question right here, they were able to answer it. They were able to answer it so quickly, but this question disproves their first stance. It disproves their first position. So it just shows you like they're just kind of answering on autopilot. Like, you know?
So wouldn't their pay reflect that?
Yeah, women like to work with people, men like to work with things.
Don't women also choose to take more time off to focus on friends and family, whereas men are more likely to be devoted to work?
I think, yeah, this is also another fact, biology of life.
Women have to bury a child and they have to take maternity leave. So that's a very big issue for most CEOs in the company, because they can't really have that liability for an employee to take leave for such a long time. And that's one of the biggest concerns for women being paid so low, is because of their it all has to do with.
But isn't that biology? And
yes,
women,
it has to do with biology. That's why we're upset.
Why should an employer,
smart girl,
be responsible for a woman's choice to have a kid?
They're not responsible, but it's just the basic ethics.
It actually is illegal to discriminate pay based on gender. Why aren't more women filing class action lawsuits against companies that don't pay them equally?
I would say it's a lot easier to get another job. I mean, I'd love to say, like, yeah, we're going to fight for it, and we do, but to the extent of a lawsuit, I mean, get a new job. Like,
don't people sue for discrimination all the time?
Okay, hold up.
But also, I feel like it's a lot harder.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I wish one of her friends would speak up. I wish she passed the mic.
Yeah, but also, I feel like it's a lot harder for anybody to then go sue their job due to something that happened, knowing that they're going to go through all the legal fees. They have the possibility of not then winning that case, although they very much would have been discriminated against. There's not a high chance that they could win it, and if they
No, they would lose. They would lose because there would be no evidence that there was even any discrimination.
do, you get a payout, pays out through the staff, like things like that.
But even a class action lawsuit, I mean, if it was happening as frequently as you hear about it, you would think that companies would be sued all the time.
You would think, but I also don't think a lot of people are going to go through their time to sue a company knowing that it might be more repercussions to them in the end due to money and legal fees and all of that.
Yeah, they're missing the point.
So I also just think it's not talked about enough in the workplace. Like, there's a large stigma around discussing your pay with your coworkers, because what if you do make more than them and then they're like, hey, like, why are you getting paid more than me? It's something that you don't generally talk about with your coworkers. Like, oh, by the way, I make this much a year, I make this much per paycheck. It's not something that comes up in workplace conversation.
Can you tell me any jobs where the pay scale for men and women is different?
Not off the top of my head without like.
I can. Actors. I mean, broad amount of payment, but men are higher paid actors.
They just don't. They don't understand, and they can't even name something. They can't name many things because that it just doesn't exist. Those things aren't out there for them even to name. But nobody ever names anything that most people do. You know what I mean? Like, they go to things like actors, musicians. It's like, okay, yeah, whatever. But you talking about it's unfair. These people are all still making millions up here. Whatever. Who cares if this female actor makes one less million than other? Who cares? Name something that average people actually do, and you can't name nothing because you don't get paid. You don't get paid differently based on your gender. It's all made up. It's all what the kids call nowadays cap. But you know what, guys? I'm going to end the video right there. We had about the 15-minute mark. I will leave this video in the description below so you can check out the last 5 minutes of it. And on your way out the door, do not forget that I'm gifting a Insider Plus or All Access membership to the Daily Wire at the end of the month. All you got to do is like, comment, share, and subscribe on all my videos. And I'll pick someone at random. But yeah, that's it for the video, you guys. I'm out of here. Peace.